Welcome to Clear Lake in Review, this week brought to you by Wood Sport Shop in Clear Lake. Today we're going to be talking about the two 4-H clubs in the Clear Lake area, the Willow and the Knotty Pine. My guests are leaders and members of the clubs, Daisy Hosey, Nancy Bergman, Connie Moore, Karen Christensen, Elsie Wood, and Paul Scott. This edition of Clear Lake in Review is devoted to the youth of the Clear Lake area, and my guests today are leaders of two 4-H clubs in the Clear Lake area and a couple members of these two 4-H clubs. And I think I'm going to start the program today by asking the leaders to talk about the founding of their 4-H clubs, some of the people that were important in getting the clubs established, and then kind of an update to the present as to who the people are and what the beginnings of the club were, and some of the things that you see as major accomplishments in the years that your 4-H club has been in existence. I'm going to start with the Knotty Pine Club with Karen Christensen and Elsie Wood, and ask you to just give us a beginning for your 4-H club and some of the things that have happened that you consider to be important.
Our 4-H club, the Knotty Pine, was organized in March of 1962. We had 14 girls that showed their desire to be members of a 4-H club. And we met with Sid Bergman to first organize it. And our first president was Kathy Danielson, Vice President Brenda Nielsen, Secretary Joyce Wood, Treasurer Stacia Anderson, and the reporter Ann Scholes. The leaders were Mrs. Kenneth Scholes, general leader, with assisted by Mrs. Larry Nelson and myself, Mrs. Clayton Wood.
What are some of the things that you consider to be accomplishments for your 4-H club, Karen?
Well, the fact that we have had kids go to the state down to the fair at Milwaukee, and the 4-H, the projects that they have been involved in, and the learning that they've gotten from this and carried on later on in life, and just real good participation at the county fairs and organizations for different things in town, doing different things to beautify the town and just make people think that they're pretty good kids.
I think that's what the 4-H is all about, being able to provide worthwhile activities and learning experiences for the young people. And when a club can talk about the accomplishments and the awards and the trips and the activities that the young people are in, that's, I guess, a sure sign of success for the 4-H club. How about the Willow 4-H club? Daisy and Nancy, can you give us kind of a background of some of the founding people and information about the club?
Our club was first organized in April 1960, and it all started out when some of our neighbors had some welfare children, and they wanted these children to be into something more active, and so pretty soon they started looking for some leaders, and well, they got Mr. and Mrs. Hosey to be leaders, and so then we had called Sid Bergman anyway then to meet with us. And our first meeting, we had our first year, we had 23 boys and girls enrolled. And our first officers were President James Reed, Vice President Kendall Winiger, Secretary Kathy Wade, Treasurer Mary Hawksford, and Reporter Jean Wade. And for assistant leaders, we had Mr. and Mrs. Roy Thomas, Mrs. Norman Reed, Leanne Eldon, Wendell Christensen, and Mrs. Jean Wade and Harry Raven. Generally, most of these other leaders served as some project leader, or in the capacity of some project leader is what their main work or job was anyway. What else?
Nancy, what about some of the public service projects that your 4-H club has taken part in over the years? I guess the flowerbed project in Clear Lake have been one of the things that you've been most well known about. Could you tell us about that?
Although this is my first year as their leader, and it's really our second year into the club, our 4-H has 2 flower beds in the park at Clear Lake, and we're responsible for keeping them up, keeping them weeded in the spring and keeping them up. And then also we have been active in a new project in the village of Clear Lake. They have a recycling center that's set up mainly for glass, and we help support this project also.
Paul and Connie, I have some questions for you concerning your activities as members of a 4-H club. Connie, you've had much experience being one of the older members of your club in taking part in county fair activities and also at the state fair in particularly showing livestock. Could you tell us about some of your experiences and what you feel that you've gained from your 4-H experiences?
Well, one thing that I've really gained is the people that I've met. Going down to the state fair, we stay in dorms down there, and you just meet everyone that are down there for all different reasons, and it's really a lot of fun. And we take sheep down there and we show them at the county too. And we've taken home a trophy from the state fair for 6 years now. It's a shepherd's trophy for keeping it neat and clean and nice down there, and it's just really fun.
Again, another learning experience, and I think that's probably what as we've talked to the leaders here, has proven to be the most important thing in the majority of the 4-H activities, is the interrelationship between the leaders and the youth, and the youth from, say, Polk County and Wisconsin and other counties in the country, and just a whole different kind of experience for young people to be able to meet people of different backgrounds and different ideas than themselves, and to be able to grow because of these experiences. Paul, you've done a lot of traveling as far as participation in statewide activities and work within the county, particularly in the music program. Could you tell us about this?
Yes, the state music program, the 4-H, is quite highly advanced, I would say, as compared to what most people would think. It's not just all kids going out and milking cows every morning as projects, but the music program is definitely one of recognition. They have music specialist Robert Swan working at the state music program there. I've participated in the state 4-H band for 2 years now, and I'd have to agree with Connie. I think the biggest thing I've gotten out of it was meeting people, all kinds of people, but it was truly a good musical endeavor.
Your experiences through the state 4-H band take you to the state fair and to state 4-H Congress too, don't they?
Yes, this is true.
Nancy and Daisy, could you tell us more about your club as far as some of the other projects that you've taken part in? One of the things that I have heard about over the years in Polk County is the Bluebird Trail project, and your club has been active with this particular project in years past. Could you tell us what this is about and what kind of activities the young people take part in?
Well, I guess mainly it was just just to see how many bluebirds we've got in our county, to try and keep track of how many bluebirds there are and how many there are, how the population is increasing. I guess for a while the bluebird was almost extinct, and so this man that I can't say his name yet was organizing this kind of a program then. Well, it was to kind of keep track of what was being produced or how many birds were being produced, and so it was everyone to make bluebird houses and then keep track of the birds that were laying in them and how many eggs were laid, how many were hatched, and so forth like that.
Has the population increased over the years since this project was started?
Well, it seems like in some of our houses we've had more anyway, I think anyway, but I don't know just exactly what in the county basis it has really proven. I haven't really kept up with that.
Well, if there are birds, that's an improvement over a lot of areas where there, like you said, the bluebird was almost extinct. How about some of the conservation projects for Knotty Pine, Karen and Elsie?
Well, for quite a number of years, we planted trees. We worked with the Boy Scouts and assisted the Four County Corner Sportsman's Club in a tree planting project. But this past year, we cleaned a park up towards Balsam Lake, the Goose Lake area park, and it was a real interesting experience. We've made posters and had window displays, so conservation has been a real interesting one. Then last year they received the opportunity to attend the conservation camp at Wisconsin Dells. So that's it on conservation.
How about the state award that the young people receive for their work in conservation, the tour of the central Wisconsin area?
Well, that was where 5 boys and girls attended last year with their conservation leader, Clayton Wood. But that's about all I can say about that.
Okay. How about some of the community service projects of Knotty Pine?
Well, we have been interested in cultural heritage. We've had several members in the Cultural Heritage Project as an individual project. So then we carried it through in a club field. Then their project was to have the bell tower restored, and the firemen scraped the building and had it painted, but that was in 1973. That was their big community improvement project.
How about out-of-state exchanges? To have either of your clubs had members that attended, say, either in-state or out-of-state exchanges?
We've had 2 from our club, Christy Dreyer and my daughter Linda participate. And Linda went to Kentucky and one of them went to West Virginia, and we also were host families for a girl from New York one year, and the Dryers were also host families for a boy from West Germany as part of this exchange program.
We, in our club, we've had 3 exchanges. New York, this past month was Ohio. Our son participated in that, and our older son had gone to Utah, and then we had entertained a New York girl and a Utah girl also as exchanges. Then one of our sons also went to Sheboygan County as an exchange. But I think that were the only students, or members I should say, in our club that participated in out-of-state exchanges.
I'd like to mention that the Hosies and the Woods are probably a 4-H name for many, many years in Polk County, with both Daisy and Elsie serving over 15 years as leaders of 4-H clubs and their families holding the officer positions in the 4-H clubs and in county activities, and certainly appreciative. I'm sure the county is appreciative of your work in 4-H, and I'm sure that the kids that have come through your 4-H clubs have been well rewarded because of the work that you've put in. I'd like to ask for a quick evaluation from Connie and Paul of what you feel the 4-H program has done for you.
Well, I feel that it's really helped me to grow and mostly get along better with people. I guess that's about the main thing.
Because I have to agree with her again. And also, that 4-H is just not something that you find in Clear Lake. It's something you find all over, be it a big city or a small rural community. 4-H is happening.
How about some of the activities that your clubs are going to be taking part in for the Clear Lake Centennial this year? What kind of things are on the horizon for your young people come a couple weeks from now?
Well, the flea market is probably the one that's on the end of our tongues at the moment. We're planning activities for that.
And we are also hopeful to have a float if everybody gets going and we get things organized here, and everybody's pretty busy, but we really are hoping now that we have a float in it.
And ours will be a float this year. We're well on the road to a float.
Right. Well, thank you very much for being my guest today on this week's edition of Clear Lake in Review. The 4-H leaders and members from the Willow 4-H Club and the Knotty Pine 4-H Club, both from the Clear Lake area. Guests today, Mrs. Daisy Hosey, Connie Moore, Nancy Bergman, Karen Christensen, Elsie Wood, and Paul Scott. My thanks to you for being guests today on Clear Lake in Review. This is Evie Nurbin reporting for WIXK's Clear Lake in Review. This has been Clear Lake in Review, this week brought to you by Wood Sports Shop in Clear Lake, where you can get Clear Lake Centennial memorabilia.
Folks say